The Kings are back home after a 7-game road trip, a great road trip. They went 5-2. And on the home floor tonight, the Pistons come into town. They won 6 games all year, 2 on the road. Oh, and they made a trade today, missing a couple of key guys. Oh, and Cade Cunningham and Bogdanovich aren't playing. Easy win for the Kings. No, not so fast. The Sacramento Kings didn't just lose to the Pistons tonight. They got down 15. They came back at the end of the third. Sabonis hitting a 3 at the end of the third quarter to give the Kings the lead. He's dapping up Rousset. The crowd is buzzing after booing. Feeling good. The Kings are going to run away with it, right? Yeah. The Pistons said, no, we're not done. You can't guard me. Jaden Ivey said, you can't guard me. Alec Burks said, revenge game. Marcus Sasser was nasty.
What?
Jaden Ivey had 37 points. Jaden Ivey had 19 points in the fourth quarter on 6 of 6 shooting. The Kings as a team in the fourth had 21. Yes, Jaden Ivey almost single-handedly outscored the Kings in the fourth quarter. And the Sacramento Kings, after that 5-2 trip, everyone feeling good, give up 133 points to the Pistons and lose 133-120. Welcome to rock bottom, the low point of the season. This podcast and every one of our podcasts presented by our friends we're at Northwest Exteriors. Check out trustnorthwest.com. I'm Deuce Mason. That's Morgan Reagan. How you doing, Mom?
Welcome to rock bottom. A little dramatic.
No. No.
Please proceed to talk. You haven't talked. Go.
Sorry. My bad. But I know, Morgan. You like to say, Deuce, you ride the roller coaster sometimes.
I'm feeling what you're feeling.
This is a low point because I think tonight it showed all the Kings' weaknesses on display. Everything that fans have been concerned about against the good teams, you saw tonight against a Pistons team that is bad. There's no excuse for this one. You know, sometimes you lose games in the NBA. Hey, I had an off night. You come back from a long. If the Kings came back from this road trip and they shot 37% tonight and they lost by 3, we'd be like, oh my God, that's really bad. But we'd be like, you know what? Tired legs. They traveled 7,000 miles on this trip,
2 weeks.
No. Morgan, if I would have told you before the game the Kings would hit 15 threes, that they would have 31 assists and just 4 turnovers, 31 assists and 4 turnovers, and they'd score 120 points, you would say, that's a W tonight against the shorthanded Pistons. It wasn't because the defense was beyond putrid tonight. Ooh. This defense tonight couldn't guard anybody.
What was the word you used?
Putrid. Disgusting.
I like that.
You give up 133 points to this team? Yep. No disrespect to the Pistons. But let's have a little reality here.
Yes.
This Pistons team beat OKC a couple of weeks back. Why? Because OKC missed shots. You miss shots sometimes. This was an example of not being locked in. The effort level was bad. This was not a serious performance by the Kings. It was so disappointing. And when it's the night before the trade deadline, it's magnified. It looked really bad tonight, Morgan.
Oh, it was magnified. And it was magnified not only by, I'm sure viewers at home, Golden One Center booing.
Yeah.
It was like, well, I get it. And it's because everyone understood the angles going into this game. And you already mentioned so many of these things. Oh my God. I was dying laughing with Mike Bibby going into the half like, you guys get this. The Kings allowed 70 points to this shorthanded team. Keegan has 4 fouls at this point, and Fox is 0 for 4 at the free throw line. This is not good, but they can figure it out, right? That was my thing. It was like this weird confidence, even at the half, going like, okay, it's not pretty, but it can get better. And it did get a little bit better at the end of that third in the way that they really rallied back into this one to start off.
And that's it, Morgan.
What? What is it?
You take the lead going into the third if you're a good team, if you're a serious team, right? The Kings are good. Mm-hmm. But let's not lose sight. This is who they are. This is not 10 games in. This is 20 games in. This is 50 games in. There's 32 to go. This is what they are. Some nights when the shots are falling, it's going to be good. When they're locked in defensively, it looks good. But tonight, not locked in at all. And then even if they try to be locked in, they're getting shredded. Everyone talks about they can't guard the three-point line. It is accurate. But you know what? They also can't guard the perimeter. So they get carved up in the pick and roll. They get carved up because they just can't stay in front of their man. Killian Hayes breaking down Kevin Huerter, getting in the paint, spraying for 3. He had 9 assists. Jaden Ivey attacking relentlessly, using his physicality, shouldering guys. I mean, they got so many easy looks because they just shredded. It was an awful defensive performance. Awful. The Pistons shot 56%. They hit 17 of 31 from 3. That's 54%. 17. The Sacramento Kings are 29th in three-point defense, allowing teams to shoot 39.7%. The only team worse, the Hornets, at 39.8. So let's go ahead and say Sacramento is dead last in the NBA because I'm rounding up. It's
fair after tonight, too.
This is what they are.
I was stunned after this game, and I was stunned. It's like, a lot of times when you're a pregame show, a postgame show of a team, like you definitely go the angles of like, hey, like what was positive out of this one? It was one of those games where I can usually talk about the good of, hey, it was really nice to see this effort here or this, or there's losses where you can still talk about good. And I truly believe that with every team in the NBA, with every sport. But with a game like this, because of all the angles going into this game and then how it finished, I had a very difficult time talking to Mike Bibby after this one about what was good. And in fact, I kept telling him, I'm like, I'm not okay. And he kept saying like, look, you really do have to have the mindset of going on to the next one. I'm like, can I get you on my Calm app tonight? And you tell me that like while I go to bed, because I don't feel that way. And then Brad Miller comes on in the second segment of our show. And I'm kind of, Mike and Brad are just like kind of laughing and having fun. I'm like, oh, is this funny? I didn't really say that, but really I'm thinking, you guys, like, what was the mentality? Like, how do you just come in like this when you guys played teams like this, when you were a good team? They're like, yeah, you shit the bed sometimes basically, and it just kind of happens. Yeah. And I get all of those things, but I still feel the way I feel after really wanting this team to take that next step, especially after a really solid 5-2. When I say solid 5-2 road trip, they found a way to get a win. Wasn't always pretty, but they found a way to get a win. And tonight, I thought it was going to be an ugly win, and instead it was a terrible loss.
So they have games like this.
Yes.
They don't close games well.
No.
Even when they look good, they don't close games well.
No.
And sometimes they fall apart in those games. Even though they've been playing better basketball before tonight, they're still, you go, hey, can you close out Chicago better? You're up 30. You got down to 3. Dallas, you're up big. Why'd it get tight at the end? Milwaukee and Phoenix, games you had that you lost. The Portland game where you got absolutely destroyed by a shorthanded Portland team in Portland. The game where the Hornets came here and won. Like, okay, one of these games every once in a while, this can't happen. And that there's really no excuse you can make, but I think tonight is where you see the shortcomings most. I've given Kevin Huerter a lot of love for how he's been playing lately. I think he's done much better defensively at times. Yeah. His offense has gotten it going. He got torched defensively. The last two games. They
went after him, and I've seen him able to respond when teams go after him. And you're exactly right. The last 2 games, it was like, wait, I get. There could have been better help defense on some of these plays, but sometimes you got to take it upon yourself when one of these fast guys are going straight at you. It's not like they're good NBA players, but they're not De'Aaron Fox going at you. They're not completely unstoppable.
The other problem is just going super small. I mean, so because you can't guard their guards, you go, all right, we're going to have Fox, Mitchell, Monk, Huerter, and Sabonis. I mean, Lyles had it going at one point. Give me some Lyles. Let me see. Lyles was knocking down shots, and I know it wasn't just about shot making, but I need a guy that can at least like get a rebound every once in a while. God, I'm just looking up and down. Like just some guy with size. So Lyles had 19 points, only 2 rebounds. So great example, Deuce. But even someone like Keegan. So Keegan had he was in foul trouble all night. He ends up playing 20 minutes. Look, he had 4 fouls. I know he had an off night, but he's in his second year, and at some point, you got to make him figure it out. Like,
let him play through it.
I've said this to you before, Morgan.
Uh-huh.
Let him struggle out there. I'd rather him struggle and figure it out. Let him struggle and figure it out in the fourth quarter of a tight game against the Pistons, because he's probably your best defender.
Sure.
And he was on the bench. Well, you're getting worked. Well, they've had him defend Donovan Mitchell, Steph Curry, Luka. The list goes on. Like, not having him out there, I get he was a little off. I want him to figure it out. All around tonight, just a beyond disappointing game by the Sacramento Kings. There's no other way to put it. They could not guard the ball. The closeouts were just so bad. They're going under on guys they shouldn't go under. Like, hey, Jaden Ivey's got it going now. I'm not going under on Jaden Ivey.
Nope.
Like, he's in a rhythm. The guy's knocking down threes. Ivey destroyed him. Killian Hayes, 8 and 9, destroyed them. Duran, 20, 15, and 6. Sasser off the bench, 18. Alec Burks, he was hitting shots that were guarded sometimes, but like, the guy gets confident. You give him any look.
Here's a question that someone asked me. That someone asked me after the game. They go, hey, how come every team feels like they look like an all-star elite team when they play the Kings? Even if the Kings pull out the win, they said it just feels like they're shooting lights out against the team. That feels like they play really well. What is it? And I'm like, I noticed that too. And with the 3-point shooter, I go defense. I mean, alone, you can just talk about the defense.
I mean, so pick and roll coverage. If your guy's getting beat and then Sabonis gets beat, everyone's moving around, right? And you're late closing out on guys. You're helping. It comes down sometimes to being able to guard the ball, being able to rotate properly. You put some guys in bad spots, or the wrong guys are collapsing, and then everyone's collapsed in the paint. And these guards are smart enough. Were they going to take it on 4 guys? No, they're like, hey, I've got 3 guys out in the perimeter right now. I'm going to find the open shooter.
Here's the other thing too. Yeah, and they always find, and it feels like against the Kings, they always find the open shooter. And maybe sometimes I go, is that length? Like, but then you notice like there's been a lot of good defensive possessions for the Kings where they're getting deflections, hands are up, and discipline, and all those things.
And they weren't tonight.
Not only that, and I also I look at someone like Kevin Huerter, for example, when we are giving him all the love when he deserves it, when he is playing good defense. And he's not even the best defender out there, and he's staying with guys, not tonight, staying with guys, sliding left and right, moving laterally, contesting, doing what he needs to do. It takes when you are not the best defender, it takes a different level of effort and mental toughness and all of the things that you have to put on yourself to make sure that you can hang at that level every single night. And I get it. It is going to be so difficult at times, but I just, when you're not a good individual defender in the league, you got to make sure that your effort is just times 1,000,000 when you're guarding on ball, especially when it's quick guards.
The Kings were also out-rebounded tonight, Morgan, 48-33.
Of course they were.
48-33.
The points in the paint stat from last meeting to this one, what was that?
Well, they had 82 points in the paint, which is a crazy absurd number in that
what it
first meeting. Just another level. Tonight, 56 on 28 of 42, which, 56 isn't awful, but
no.
They did better in the second half of it. But it's just, I felt like that was an area that they could have. I thought in the first half, especially offensively, I thought they were settling a lot. The bench, to their credit, Trey Lyles, Malik Monk, I felt like gave them a lift a little bit to get them back into the game. But I thought they weren't playing their game, and I don't know what it is against some of these teams. Like I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I hate repeating myself, but your approach can't change. Like you need to check yourself, and I'm not saying every person on the Kings has that approach. Like I think Sabonis is like the perfect guy he just approaches the game the same way every game. Mm-hmm. He's playing hard.
Paranoid.
I don't care if it's the Pistons. I don't care if Cade's out. I don't care if it's Boyan's out. I don't care if they trade 2 guys. Like I'm going, we need this game because on Friday we've got Denver coming to town. And then we have OKC and Phoenix and Denver. Like this, you can't drop home games to the Pistons, and they got destroyed.
You can't, but you also can't just play up for those games too. And it felt like that's the thing. At times it didn't feel like, it's not that they weren't playing up. It was the Pistons were playing super up. Okay. It felt like the Pistons were playing at a different level where they didn't even need to be scrappy. They were just playing good basketball. You know, it's not like they had to do all these extra things to be like, we got to stay in it. They were just playing some good basketball in there. And of course, when you're making shots and you're not one of the better teams in the NBA, you're going to fuel some confidence off that. You're going to feel good. But it never ended. And it felt like the Kings weren't stepping up with their physicality and being like, no, you know what? You come back in this paint, you're going to get hurt. Not really hurt, but like you're going to feel it. I'm going to get you so you think twice the next time you want to come into the paint.
Just rough.
Yeah.
Just rough.
Yeah.
Also did not help. De'Aaron Fox was not good tonight. He had 12 points.
I know.
On 5 of 14 shooting. 0 for 4 at the free throw line. 0 for 4 at the free throw line. The Kings as a team, 15 of 22 at the line. On the other side, the Pistons also shot 22 free throws. They made all 22.
Well done, Pistons. Well done.
I have not heard this yet. I would love to hear this. Brendan Nunez, who does a great job covering the Kings for Sacktown Sports, posted a video of Mike Brown, and the caption says, gives some very specific examples of where the Kings had defensive shortcomings in tonight's loss. You want to hear this?
I love specifics.
I want to hear specifics. We talked about a lot of generalities. Let's hear what he had to say.
You know, Alec Burke is hot. He's got the ball on the left wing late in the game. And he's 3 feet behind the three-point line. And Fox closes to him. And Fox closes short. Alec Burke raises up into a shot. Fox contests. Now, everybody would think that that's a great contest, because it was almost hand to hand. That's not how we close out to hot guys. We practice. We say we're going to hip hot guys. That means you run, basically put your chest or put your body on their side in a no middle stance. And as he raises up, now you raise up to contest, but you don't get to him. Stop short, hands down. Now he raises up, and then you raise to contest.
It's a practice shot.
So we have to do. And we worked on that today. We worked on it a lot. And we worked on it today for 5 minutes during the defensive segment. And we don't close out the right way. A lot of their threes came off the pick and roll. Yeah. Whether we blitzed or tried to play our normal coverage, whoever the ball handler was dribbled around Domas, went along the baseline. We had to commit another guy. So now you got 3 guys trying to contain the basketball because he's just getting around us. When that happens, if you're not actively on the side of the ball with high hands, instead of putting your chest in front and not letting that ball get around you, once that ball gets along the baseline and it flattens the defense and you're not there to try to have active hands, they're going to throw darts to players along the perimeter.
Wow.
And now it's a long closeout because you committed the 3rd guy to the ball.
Am I Mike Brown?
Okay, shut up.
Because it went around the pick and roll defense. It could have shot a layup if we didn't commit a 3rd guy to the ball. In transition, one time we ran back to the paint. We should have ran to a guy that was open on the wing. So these are things that we practice, and we will continue to practice. But at some point, we have to say, you know what? I'm going to do it the right way, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to do it the right way at the highest freaking level. And if it doesn't work, then I'm going to point and say we got to change things up. There's nothing to change up right now because we're not doing our job. We didn't do our job tonight, for sure.
Hey, man, Mike Brown. He said it. I mean, dead on. And great breakdown. Love the specifics because those things, like even that mental shift of understanding when someone's hot, even if you're not going to the game and your game plan, like what was Alec Burke's shooting coming into this game? Let's see. Just really quick, he was shooting from 3? It was, okay, he was shooting 39%
really
from
good
3-point
shooter.
Yes. So already right there then. Already
that's what
right
he
there,
does.
You should already know that he's a hot player.
He's the 20th best three-point shooter, three-point percentage of anyone with 240 plus three-point attempts this year. He is shooting 38% on twos, the worst two-point percentage of any player with 150 two-point attempts.
So he shoots the shit out of the three. And that's
what he does.
And if you, obviously, in this team, game plans for that, they understand personnel, you have to make sure you are locked in, ready to go with even that right there. And that's exactly what he's saying. He's like, we practice it, we can do it, but then sometimes it's just not happening.
You want to hear a little more, Mike Brown? Because I would love
Yes.
to hear what else he had to say after this one. This is from James Ham over at ESPN 1320.
Yeah, Mike, we talked about it before the game, but
Yeah.
again, the three-point shooting became like a huge issue in this game. Is there something that you guys need to do structurally to change up some of this? Or is it, again, just the second effort and that type of stuff?
The first thing, James, is doing what we do. I mean, there were a couple examples, and I talked to our guys at the end of the game. Alec Burke is hot. He's got the ball on the left wing late in the game.
This is the same little clip, I guess. Let me see if there's more to it. Damn it.
They're going to throw darts
It's the same
in
clip.
transition. But
Say it
at
again.
some point, we have to say, you know what? I'm going to do it the right way. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to do it the right way at the highest freaking level.
Yep, there you go.
And
Same-
he said
same
it
thing.
twice. He actually said it twice in that presser.
He said it twice. One other that I know I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but that's where I'm like, hey, give me some length out there. The Kings don't have enough length on the roster. And that's something to me that Thursday, tomorrow, hours from now, it's got to be addressed. It just has to be addressed. Like, I'm not saying it has to be the move that changes the Kings long term, but this team needs more length. One of the guys with length is Keegan Murray. He was not on the bench. I'd like to have that guy out there closing out on some of these guys too, and he's not playing. I get it. He made a defensive mistake in transition. I think Mike Brown, the mistake he was talking about was when Keegan allowed a corner three in transition. Okay, he needs to learn from this, and he's got to be out there in those situations. So
Yeah.
that's one example where I'm like, hey, I hear you, Mike. I agree with you. Your points are valid about defensive breakdowns, but I need my best defensive player out on the floor, even if he is kind of struggling.
Yeah, like work through it, get through it, figure out what you need to do. It's what's wild to see. I mean,
Sorry, and even in the chat, I mean, use Kessler. Like if you don't want to go use Kessler. The guy had good defensive moments on this road trip, and he didn't play tonight.
so what's wild to see
Sorry, go ahead.
is against the Cavs.
Yeah.
They also hot hand, everyone's red hot. Cavs, good
Yes.
team. You expect it, but even so, they were red effing hot. Okay?
And you're right about that. This game was eerily similar in some ways
Yes.
to the Cavs game.
To the shittiest team
But in
in
your
the
mind,
East.
it feels so differently, right? Because the Cavs are obviously one of the best teams in the East right now, one of the best teams in the NBA. But it's a similar problem where it's like, God, they've got some ball handlers that are just breaking down the Kings defense right now. It was Donovan Mitchell, it was Garland. Those guys were just the pick and rolls with Jared Allen. They destroyed the Kings. They were getting paint touches. They were moving the ball. It was the same thing tonight, except instead of Donovan Mitchell, a 5-time All-Star, it's Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey, let's not get it twisted. It's been a rocky second year for him. He wasn't playing at times. It's been tough. What does a game like this do for his confidence to drop 37 points and absolutely take over in the fourth quarter of a game, 19 points, and go, hey, F you, you guys drafted Keegan Murray instead of me. Like, I'm sure all that was fueling him a bit tonight, but he stepped up, and it was this. It's very similar to the Cavs game, honestly.
Absolutely. And that was kind of my point is like, and I think that's even Mike Brown's point is like, look, understanding how to do this the right way against whatever the personnel is. And especially even if it is the personnel and then the game plan needs to shift because this okay three-point shooting team becomes a really good three-point shooting team. Those in-game adjustments defensively for the Sacramento Kings aren't there. And I get that because they aren't an elite defensive team. But Deuce always shares that stat when they're on the road compared to when they are at home, and their defensive rating is top 10 when they're on the road, and it's bottom, 5 when they're at home. It's not good. And it's so weird how far apart it truly is. And it goes, where can you find that balance where every single night, whether you're at home or you're on the road, that you find yourself playing solid defense, not even elite defense, but solid defense. So then we're not talking about this against the Detroit Pistons on a Wednesday night before the NBA trade deadline.
I appreciate so many people being here after a loss like this.
Yes.
I want to get to some of the questions. There's some good ones out there and some good comments. We have like almost 500 people watching us. Can you guys hit the thumbs up and subscribe? Can we get the thumbs up to like 250 by now? Hitting the like button, you're going, well, come on, I'm mad the Kings lost. Yeah, but don't be mad at us. Hit the thumbs up because all it does is help our channel grow so more and more people see us. We're also going to be live early tomorrow morning. If there's a big trade at 5 a.m., we'll be live to talk about it. But we will be live no matter what for the NBA trade deadline. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit on the podcast. Someone in the chat was mentioning this. I've seen a couple of people mention this, Morgan.
What?
Like even someone like Keon Ellis, if you're looking for someone that has some length and some size, why not throw someone like that out there in this situation? We mentioned Kessler Edwards, okay? At some point, when you're not stopping anyone, you got to do something.
You got to adjust.
Yeah,
you got to adjust. And I think even tonight would have been, it's like, this is the perfect game for Sasha Vezenkov to come back from his ankle injury. You know, it's against the Detroit Pistons. You can get him back into the rotation. And if you look down the line at Mike Brown and his rotation and you see him also not going back to JaVale McGee, you know, not going back to any of those other guards that he was going to for quite some time. He tried to keep it back consistent to what he wanted to be with Sasha back in the lineup. But I don't think that, I think on a night like this, it was like, you got to keep searching for answers because the answer wasn't out there. Whatever those lineups were defensively, the answer wasn't there. And not to say that it didn't get them back into the game at times, but it never felt like it had the extra oomph of energy that they needed on the defensive end to stop somebody to get a stop and go.